Good morning. This is Faith in Our Hometown, brought to you as a community service and sponsored by Mercy Hospital, Joplin. And now, here's your host, Father Jay Friedel.
Good morning and welcome back for another Sunday in Faith in Our Hometown. We hope you're having a great weekend so far. My guests this morning are going to be Ashley Micklethwaite, who is at 1 Joplin, and Tim Mitchell, who's one of our local pharmacists from down in the Neosho area. The topic this morning is going to be talking about the opioid crisis and really how this thing has kind of gotten a grip on our community and on several other communities throughout the United States, how it's really become a problem, and even more importantly, what we as people in the greater Joplin area who care about these kinds of things can do to help maybe with making the situation better. Because isn't that what we would all really like to do? Now, I know that's a high kind of a challenge for a Sunday morning, but we are going to be right back after this Mercy Minute, and we are going to take a look at this opioid crisis and see what we can do about it from our own regular place. So stick around and don't go away. We'll be right back.
Once I quit playing football, I still kept up with the eating, the amount of calories I wasn't exercising, so the weight started adding on. Dr. Lou is very knowledgeable in the work he does. He also has a program set up that has support systems in place for you. You'll go through the seminar at first. He'll give you the different examples of surgeries you can have to see which one works best with you. He will also sit down with you and discuss the options, what he feels, but he'll work with you the entire time. Mercy has their gastric bypass program here. They have all kinds of resources and support systems in place. They want to see you succeed, and they're here to help you the entire time, even after the surgery.
So thanks for sticking with us on a Sunday morning, especially with a weighty topic. Again, this morning we're talking about the opioid crisis right here in our own area and what's going on here. So my guests this morning are Tim Mitchell, who's a pharmacist from Neosho, and Ashley Micklethwaite, who is the director of 1 Joplin.
Yes.
So Ashley, I didn't know until you all did the summit a little while back exactly what 1 Joplin was. So why don't you explain a little bit about 1 Joplin, tell us a little bit about yourself, and then we'll ask Tim to do the same thing, and then we'll get going.
Sure. So 1 Joplin is a coalition of organizations, businesses, people, all working to make Joplin a thriving, vibrant community. So we're looking at really big picture issues and how we as a group of people can make Joplin a better place to be.
So how long have you been in Joplin?
Joplin's my hometown.
Okay, so you grew up here.
Yes, sir.
Good for you. Okay, well, good. And this is a big picture issue.
It's
so
very
I'm really,
big picture.
I'm glad you're here this morning because I've been wanting to talk about this for a little while because I think so many times we don't see it until it crosses our path. And it's going to be crossing our paths a whole lot more probably than we've noticed now that we're raising the awareness of the issue. Mm-hmm. So Tim, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I'm a pharmacist, as you said. We actually have a smaller community in Neosho.
Right.
I have 3 drugstores in Neosho by the name of Mitchell's Drugstores, and I have been an advocate for prescription drug monitoring and various things in the pharmacy world over the last probably the last 10 years. Mm-hmm. And we've been trying to work with state legislators to get a statewide PDMP pass, and that's kind of where my first interest started. Certainly, I see it every day whenever I dispense medications. I try to talk to our patients about the importance of not just leaving your medicine out for someone else to use or not sharing it and those types of things. Right. I'm actually involved with the Newton County Community Coalition, and which is a group similar to what 1 Joplin is, but it's mainly for Newton County. And we're still trying to get our feet on the ground with various things, but we have some ideas of things that we want to do in our community as well. And I've actually worked with Ashley with the summit in Joplin here a few weeks back, and really became very impressed with what 1 Joplin's doing and wanting to kind of work, find ways that we can work together.
Yeah, well, in our area, we know that if somebody's got something that's going well, why reinvent the wheel? If we can take their ideas or those kinds of things and slide them over into the other communities, why not do some of those things?
Right.
Because again, it's a common problem that we all share.
Right.
So again, common solutions. So even though Jasper and Newton may be in a little bit different spots than where they are in the fight, it's still something that we all need to address together.
Well, a lot of the resources that people have in our area are in Joplin that we need. So I think working with a group like One Joplin, and like one of the things that I told Ashley I felt like was one of the best things that I got out of the summit was the resource guide that they provided with connections all around Southwest Missouri. She put a lot of work into her and her staff, and I tell you, I mentioned it when I was talking that I think everybody needs to make sure they take that out of their packet and take it home. And if you need one, I'm sure you can get one to someone.
Absolutely.
Well,
it's
Ashley,
really
why don't you kind of set us up for why this is an issue we need to be caring about right now? So how prevalent is this in our area? Because I'm sure a lot of our viewers are sitting there going, well, I don't know anybody's got an opioid problem. What's the deal? So why don't you just tell us what's going on out there? What do we know from law enforcement? What do we know from the word on the street? What do we know from the people that are working more closely with the issue?
Absolutely. So we know for a fact that America as a whole uses more opioids than any other country in the world. And the rate of use of opioids has increased 4 times over the last decade. But pain hasn't changed.
Right.
So doctors are prescribing more and more pain relief. We also know that people are dying. And the rate of opioid deaths in the state of Missouri is increasing. And right here in Southwest Missouri, there's about 1,900 emergency room visits for people who are in a drug overdose state.
Okay.
And so it's here.
And that's not just from people who are attempting suicide. Those are people who are in an overdose situation.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is not people who are trying to take their lives, but this is people who've been doing something that somehow gets out of control for them.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And we also know that it affects all ages,
Right.
all classes. It's not something that is, inner city.
Right.
It's here.
Yeah. So this is not just downtown Joplin, but this is like all over, the region.
It's all over, and it's not a Kansas City problem or a St. Louis problem. It's our hometown
It's our
problem.
Yeah. And so in terms of these things that we see, so that's 1,900 emergency visits between our hospitals, across the region. 1,900 people who have been in that kind of a situation. That's a huge number for an area like ours.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
And it's increasing.
Yeah. Well, that's one of the reasons why even the president a few weeks ago went ahead and said, okay, all the data's in, and as much as we hate saying that we've got a crisis, we got a crisis. We got a bit of a crisis on our hands because, again, more people dying from this across the United States, every day. And it's pretty amazing and pretty staggering when you look at the numbers. One of the things I heard the other day on some show, and I'd give credit if I could remember where I heard it, but that was that whole situation of that more people are dying, to the opioid crisis, and daily than went down in the Twin Towers, on the day that they fell. And look, and so we were saying, well, we've got to provide some resources and kind of an attack on this problem the same way that we provided the resources to protect ourselves in that regard. How are we going to protect ourselves as a country in this regard?
One of the statistics that I found staggering is every year now in the United States, more people die of an opioid drug overdose than died in the Vietnam War, the Afghanistan War, and the Iraqi War combined. Every year.
Now again, please don't anybody hear any of this the wrong way, because I don't want to hear any complaints that we were saying that those lives don't matter either, because they do. All lives matter. And that's one of the reasons why we got to care about all this stuff.
Absolutely.
Is because we don't want anybody dying needlessly. We don't want anybody dying unnecessarily. And this is one of those moments where we need to wake up and realize that a lot of people in our communities are dying from opioid addictions. And so how did we get here? How did we get to this point?
Well, so that's a great point, and there's a lot of there's a lot of discussions about that. When you're talking individuals that for some reason they wonder how they became addicted to an opioid medication, it may start off as innocently as having an ankle injury or something in a sporting event, or maybe they had a car accident or something where they received some medication. So, in the past, hospitals, physicians, and pharmacists, mainly it started, of course, with the physicians and the prescription companies that made the pain medicines. The idea was to not let a patient leave your hospital in pain, because you got bad marks if you did. Now, I don't work for a hospital, but the idea was you send them away feeling good. Where you're not in pain and that type of thing. And I'm not saying high on medicine.
Exactly, and that's probably where the problem came in.
And the drug companies, and I'm not going to name any, but the drug companies were promoting that at that time, saying, "Hey, here we are. We're the drug. These patients are not going to be addicted to these medications," when they know that they are addictive. So,
well, and that's certainly what's happened. And again, I don't necessarily want to point any fingers at but I think that everybody has to share their part of the burden.
Right.
So I mean, if folks are over prescribing, or if folks are over dispensing, or if folks are over gathering because they suddenly got hooked and they didn't even know. I mean, I just tell you, one of the stories I heard was about a high school cheerleader, and this is not in our area. This is one of my friends working in a different community, but a high school cheerleader. Wound up on there because she was having back spasms. They gave her medication to do the spasms, and before she knew it, she was hooked.
Right.
Yes.
And all of a sudden, here she is, a high schooler who had everything going for her in the world, is suddenly now addicted to, because she couldn't get off of them. And then she started this strange whole thing where she was telling lies about needing them, and and all that. It was just like,
she's buying them on the street.
And I mean, it was just like buying them on the street and doing all kinds of strange things with her own behavior to try to provide them for herself.
Right.
And again, it's very easy for church people, okay? It's very easy for people in the community to stand back and pass judgment and say, well, she was just weak, or she did this, or she did that. And I don't think that's going to help us in this situation.
No, it's not.
I think we need to stand back from the whole thing and say, okay, look, all right, we got the problem. Now, how do we start addressing it in a different way? We got to raise awareness and to do some of those things. So,
You're right.
what are we going to do?
Well, I think it starts with raise awareness, become knowledgeable, and then act out of compassion.
Yeah.
Because when you speak from your heart and you speak out of compassion, that's where you make change, and that's how you can advocate change in your community.
Yeah.
And there's simple things that we can do as part of a community.
Now, before we get going on that, those things, some of the things we can do, because we're going to have to take a break here in just a second. But we're talking this morning about the opioid crisis, and I think you just said one of the things that I love this kind of language, especially for a show like Faith in Our Hometown, and that is compassion. How do we listen with compassion? How do we raise awareness now with compassion? So we're going to be talking about that right when we come back. Again, my guest this morning, Ashley Micklethwaite from One Joplin, and Tim Mitchell, who's one of our local pharmacists. Again, people who are working with that issue and familiar with it. And so we're going to be right back. Do not go away. We're going to take a quick break. This is Faith in Our Hometown. Stay tuned, and we're going to talk about what we can do right after this quick break.
Faith in Our Hometown on KSN TV, brought to you as a community service and sponsored by Mercy Hospital, Joplin.
So thanks for sticking with us this morning. So we're actually right before the break, we were just talking about what can we do? We were just poised right there in that thing that says, okay, so listening and working with compassion. So give us some concrete things that we might do in order to make a little bit of an impact on this, those of us who are sitting around watching TV on a Sunday morning.
A very simple thing that everybody can do is to go to their medicine chest, their cabinet, their drawer, open it up and look at what's in there and clean it out. Doing a prescription drug disposal is one of the best practices. If you've got unused opioids in your house, you're a target. Over 50% of opioids that are prescribed aren't used by the people who they are prescribed for. They go unused.
Yeah.
So
in other words, this is a kind of a situation where they send you home thinking you're going to need 20 pills and you're going to need, 6. And they didn't know that when you left, but they filled the prescription and that's that, okay? Yes. So I'm guilty, okay? I mean, I had, a tooth pulled a couple years ago. They only prescribed me 10 pills, but I used 2. So I've had these 8 sitting in my drawer, just exactly the way you describe. I have these 8 sitting in my drawer. So you brought this handy dandy little kit for me so that I can get rid of those right after we get finished taping. Okay.
Yeah.
So how does this thing work? So I go to my cabinet. So tell me, Tim. What do I have here?
So this is a prescription medication disposal system. It is filled with activated charcoal. And basically, you will dump, I think you can dump up to 50, 60 pills in there at a time, which is typical for an average individual. Mm-hmm. And, if you've got some other medicines you need to throw in there, you fill it up halfway with warm water, you zip it back up. It's got the Ziploc type collection, or closer on the top. And you shake it up, let it dissolve for a few minutes, and then you can toss it in the trash because it turns into mush. That is one classic way. Now, I will tell you that I received these through the Alliance of Southwest Missouri here in Joplin. And our goal is to get these out to every pharmacy in the area. We're going to try to get some to One Joplin, to the Newton County Community Coalition, anybody that wants them. I would encourage congregations, church congregations, to have those available. I'm not saying they've got to give them to everybody, but if you wanted to put it at, and if somebody wants to, they can certainly contact one of our groups, and we will try to get them a box full of them. Yeah. The governor actually and Dr. Randall Williams at the Division of Health and Senior Services have charged the state with trying to get these out to individuals. As what Ashley said, I mean, this is one good way of getting opioids from hitting the streets.
From hitting the streets, yeah.
Because you put that on the street, someone's going to laugh and say, I don't want that,
Yeah. Well, this one will get used.
All right.
Today. So there's one thing. What else can we do? So get rid of all of our unused, pain, because I've had those sitting there for years.
Have a drug take back day at your congregation, at your church.
Okay.
Make it a community event. Start the conversation in your congregation. Raise awareness there. And my guess is you probably have somebody in your congregation that might have a problem.
Mm-hmm. Well, and again, I've got 600 families. And so the chances are that I've got somebody that's touching somewhere along the way, even if it's not one of my immediate, I can guarantee you it's going to be other ripple out. Somebody's got a nephew or, or a brother or sister in another town or whatever that could be dealing with this. And again, raising this awareness without, beating up on the people who really need our help, I think is really important. And that compassion word that you use, I think is pretty essential,
yes.
In a situation like this. Because I think really faith communities especially, we want to make this a moral issue. It's just like, well, if these people were stronger, if they had more faith, or if they had that stuff. And, the last time I checked, pain and, sometimes the inability to deal with pain in a positive way, that doesn't skip religious congregations.
No, it does not.
We just are supposed to have a framework that helps us to deal with it, perhaps, And so now how are all of our communities, how are all of our faith communities part of this solution in terms of doing that? So a drug, kind of like a drug, take back day or some of those kinds of things to sponsor some of those things. If somebody wanted to get in touch with your office, how would they talk to you about arranging something like that? So any of our ministers or any of their council members who might be sitting around today. What's One Joplin's phone number? How would we get in touch with somebody there?
The easiest way is you can call my cell phone.
Oh, wow.
And that is
You're not going to find that very often on a Sunday morning. Somebody are offering to give you their cell phone number. So, yeah.
That's 417-499-9529. Or
tell us again, 417-499-9529. 9529. Okay.
Or you can also visit our website and get in touch with me through the website, and that's onejoplin.com.
Onejoplin.com.
Yep.
Good.
And there's also resources there, and we'd be happy to come and work with your congregation. Also teach you about advocacy, working with your local police departments and other nonprofits and many faith groups coming together to solve this, because it's not just going to be solved simply. It's going to take all of us working together.
Well, and I think that's the whole nature of a crisis. All of a sudden,
it
we've
is.
reached these unbelievable numbers, and it leaves all of us shaking our heads saying, how in the world did we get here? And, and I think that, nobody wants to see anybody else in pain, and so that's one of the reasons why people were prescribing stuff in the first place. But sometimes when you're dealing with these kinds of things, they get hold of people in a way that they had no clue it was going to happen to them.
Right.
So let's remove that stigma, and instead of saying, well, you failed morally, let's say, okay, how do we help you
we
to
help
figure out how to
you?
do this? How do we help you to figure out how to address this? Okay? So what are some of the other things we need to be doing in the area?
Well, I will tell you, prescribers who I talk to regularly have started changing the way they prescribe medication. And instead
Because
of
again,
giving,
most of them didn't know what was happening. when
no,
it was happening. Right.
And I've asked physicians, so why do you give them 30 pills or 60, pills? Well, I don't know, it's just a round number, and that's just kind of what I thought I'd do. And like what you said, I think it's probably, a lot of the prescribers are now saying, okay, I think I'm probably going to give them 10 or less, on an emergency room visit or something like that. Also, a lot of the insurance companies in pharmacies we're finding are cracking down on the number of opioids that they will allow someone to get if they've not been pre-approved to get so many. They want to know why. Now, there are some individuals that tell me, well, I have legitimate pain and I don't know why you guys are cracking down on me because I need these to live. And I understand that. We're not trying to come between them, but that we have to have some accountability with what's going on. And the state has charged us to kind of keep track of this thing. One thing I do want to mention about a drug take-back is and Ashley knows this as well, that's why they're getting involved, but making sure law enforcement is present in those types of things.
Yeah, you don't want to be taking back a whole...
Well, you don't want someone standing on the corner with a box and saying, throw all your drugs in here, and then what are they going to do with them? Or they're going to be in your garage, and you'll be cramming all your medicine in there. But, a good thing that you can do is pass these out to your congregation and say, we're going to have our own little drug take back. You go home, dump your drugs in here, get rid of them.
Yeah.
And you don't have really any formal way of getting rid of them. It's just it's your own version of doing that, and it's very simple.
Yeah.
There are also take back sites throughout the Newton and Jasper counties. They're listed on these little things here. These are actually attached to each one of these that we give out, and I'm going to give that to you. But if congregations are interested, just let us know. We'll be glad to pass those out.
Yeah.
So anyhow, there's a lot of things. One other thing I wanted to mention is Generation RX, and it's an educational program. You can go to generationrx.org, and it is a educational program about the proper use of medications, proper disposal of medication. There are presentations in there that individuals like you or me or Ashley or anybody really can do in their community to individuals that need to hear it. And it goes from elementary age children to business individuals, high school, college age, clear up to senior citizens. Okay. And these are programs, it's online, it's free. I'm not selling it, right. But it is a program that we talked about in the summit that the governor and Dr. Williams have advocated for to be rolled out into the communities throughout the state.
And these are just simple instructions that people would not typically know to say, okay, if I'm done taking a medication, what do I do? If I don't need that medication anymore, what do I do with that? Okay, right. And how to do some of those things. So in other words, this is kind of like looking both ways before you cross the street,
right.
And telling somebody if somebody makes you uncomfortable with their conversation or their talk or their touch, or stop, dropping, and rolling. This is the same kind of thing.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And how do we, unfortunately, we've come to a point where we've got to teach our kids that medicines. Unfortunately, we live in a day and age where medicines can be very easily misused,
right.
Yes. And we don't want those things sitting around where anybody who might have develop a problem with them could get to them.
Right.
And not just our kids, but our parents.
Yeah. So, I mean, again, the statistics are kind of scary.
They're very
With
scary.
these things. I mean, every time I read more, I'm like, oh, wow, this is kind of an interesting thing. So, I mean, that includes, so we got to get the pharmacists involved, we got to get the doctors involved, we got to get every mom and dad and grandma and grandpa and kids involved. Yes. We got to get our community involved. Those are all things and all necessary steps into those things. And obviously, I will speak for us. We got to get our churches involved, because those communities sometimes are the ones that get the word out to the regular congregations to say, hey, this is a problem, and if we've got this issue, how do we deal with that? So again, we have an issue on our hands. We have a crisis. It's finally been labeled that officially and formally, and glory be to God, that we now have got folks' attention in that regard. So again, my guests this morning have been Ashley Micklethwaite with One Joplin, and Tim Mitchell, one of our local pharmacists from down in Neosho. We have been talking about the opioid crisis, and we're going to be right back right after this Mercy Minute, so stick around.
The SANE program, or Sexual Assault Nurse Examiner program, is a program established to provide a coordinated, specialized care to patients or women or men who've been the victim of sexual assault.
The SANE program is really designed to be a collaborative community response to sexual assault.
It's really important to make sure that it's not just the report or the forensic, but they get all of the testing that might be needed for their health.
It's also important to know that you don't need to know if you want to press charges or not. We don't get law enforcement involved unless you request it.
I just want to express to the victim that it is never your fault. You always have the right to say no, and that it's your body. So if you say yes one time, it doesn't mean every time.
I think it's important that sexual assault victims remember they've been victims of a crime, and crime victims do not pay for those services.
So thanks for joining us for another Sunday morning on Faith in Our Hometown. This morning's topic is like some of the topics we have to deal with on a Sunday morning. And unfortunately, this morning's was pretty unpleasant because it's one that confronts us all the time in our area. Sometimes we may not even be aware, but lots of people are struggling with addictions to opioids. Things and drugs that were invented to help people have now become sometimes the thing that hurts them as well. And so we've got to figure out how to grapple with that as a community. We've got to continue to grapple with that as a society, because it has become a crisis here in our own area. My guest this morning, we're talking about the importance of dealing with compassion and raising awareness. And that's what we want to do. We don't want to pass judgment on anybody who might be suffering with the issue, but we want to be a part of the community that absolutely helps, and to help figure out how to help our brothers and sisters in our area. That's what brothers and sisters do for each other. That's what communities of faith do for each other. So join us next week for Faith in Our Hometown. Thanks for joining us this morning. God bless, and have a great week.
Thanks for watching. Faith in Our Hometown can be seen Sunday mornings at 6:30 and 9 a.m. on KSN. Brought to you as a community service and sponsored by Mercy Hospital, Joplin.